Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping. In each show, we share the latest about regulations and things you need to know, plus upcoming conferences and fests, along with interviews with the movers and shakers in this fabulous vape space. Are you looking to get into this ever-expanding marketplace? Do you want to master this industry? Listen up as Norm Bauer, the Vape Mentor, shares it all. And here's your host, Norm Bauer.
Welcome back to segment number 3 of Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping. If you're just joining us, hopefully you're listening to this sequentially, but maybe not. The first section was me updating you on what's happening out there with festivals, some interesting aftermath of the FDA decision, and also some wonderful prognostication with Bonnie Herzog and Wells Fargo Financial, who I have an immense amount of respect for. And then, of course, in section number 2, we had that interview with Don Bors, who was an icon in the tobacco industry. He's been in it for almost as long as I've been alive, and hell, that's a lot longer than I care to admit, Paul.
Yes.
A lot longer than I care to admit.
But you look like you're 29.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Thank you. I would like to think that I feel that way as well. So here we are in Section 3, and we're continuing with our interviews with what we call the movers and the shakers. For those of you who are in the industry, which means that you're B2B, you are either in a vape store, or you're involved with online, or you are involved with some type of accessory, you really need to be involved as an advocate. And the two largest advocacy organizations out there are CASAA, C-A-S-A-A, and we're going to have an interview with Greg Connolly in a few weeks. I'm going to be finally meeting this gentleman in person. I've had many conversations and many emails with him, but we've never met face-to-face. So he and I are going to be sharing a stage in Los Angeles on June 5 and June 6 at the Vape Affiliates conference. And for those of you who want to go, please just send us an email to norm@VapeMentors.com, and we'll send you a link for it. It's not cheap. It's not cheap. It's around $700, but I'll guarantee you, if you have technological skills or want to learn technological skills, this is a great place for you to learn how to really delve into the affiliate network. So in addition to CASAA, we have the other acronym, which is SFATA, S-F-A-T-A. And when I interviewed Cynthia, I had to stumble over that a few different times. It actually stands for Smoke-Free Alternatives Trade Association, which, she acknowledges is quite a mouthful. And, we talk about that in the interview, about them possibly coming up with a new name for them. So we'll see where that ends up. But anyway, they put out a newsletter. They actually are very prolific, and they put out a daily newsletter. So I suggest that if you really want to know what's going on in the vaping and e-cigarette movement, you go to sfata.org. Now, mind you, this interview was done before the FDA decision, so you're going to hear us reference it without really knowing exactly where it's going to come out. And then when we come back, we're going to talk to you about the contest that we had, the V2 contest. Remember that contest we had, Paul?
Yeah, I wanted to know who won. We're going to find out.
We actually have a winner, and this was a really, really awesome little case with what they call the Vapor Couture line, which is 4 women, very sexy. I mean, very sexy. I mean, if I met a woman who didn't smoke and didn't vape, I might actually give this to them because I think they're a hot little commodity.
There you go.
So anyway, when we come back after the interview, we're going to share with you the winner of the V2 Les Essentiels contest. So
first, you got to speak French, though. We're going to have to master speaking French better.
Yeah, I ain't very good at speaking French. I have a hard enough time with English. So this segment here is sponsored by Vapors.com. Can you believe someone actually has VAPORS.com?
There was foresight, yeah.
Tell me about it. They are the up-and-coming source for all of your hardware, all of your mod needs. Visit their site at Vapors.com, and they're going to be going live in the next couple of weeks. So let's go ahead and dial in this interview with Cynthia Cabrera, and you all listen in and you learn too. Welcome back to Vape News Radio. This is Norm Bauer, still over at the NATO exhibit over at Las Vegas. That's the National Association of Tobacco Outlets. And as I mentioned before, it's a little bit overwhelming here. There's all kinds of amazing exhibitors, but there's also a lot of people that are very significant in our world, our vape space. I was lucky enough to run into Cynthia Cabrera with SFATA, which I have to acknowledge. I have seen the acronym, but I am not not that familiar with it, but listen up, guys, as Cynthia gives us a download. So, Cynthia, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I apologize on the incorrectness of the acronym, so why don't you make me accurate and say, what is SFATA?
It's the Smoke-Free Alternatives Trade Association. I realize it's a clunky acronym. It's actually not even an acronym. It's a bunch of initials, and I realize it's awkward, but that's what it is.
So we'll just agree to call it SFATA.
SFATA.
Okay, fair enough. So what is SFATA all about?
All right, so we are the largest trade association in the space, and really we represent all segments of the vapor products world. So distributors, manufacturers, importers, retailers, and when I say retailers, I mean vape store owners, not 7-Eleven or Walmart or anything like that. I mean, we represent the mom and pop entrepreneurs, the people who built this industry.
That's awesome, and that's the world that we live in here in the vape space, is the small people who are trying to get into a business or trying to grow a business that's already there.
That's correct.
So more or less you're a trade association that does what for the industry?
So really we're a lobbying resource, we're an educational resource, and really what we're trying to do is expand our reach so that we can continue to help businesses stay in business. The problem is that potential pending FDA regulation would be very bad for this particular part of the space. So what we're trying to do is educate so that they can educate their legislators at the grassroots level. We go to D.C., we lobby at the federal level, and we spend a lot of time trying to educate over there. There's a lot of misconception and unknowns about these products, and the media will represent and misrepresent information about the industry, and then other media will pick it up, and so pretty much every day we're just fighting a negative battle. So the only way to combat that is through education and lobbying, and we also want to empower our businesses to be able to keep growing and stay in business.
All right, so we've opened up the Pandora's box that we don't want to open up, but we absolutely have to open up. And for all of you listeners out there who think that you're going to bury your head in the sand and this is going to go away, guys, it's just not going to happen. You absolutely must be involved, you must be engaged, and you must pay attention to what's going on. So let's talk about the gorilla in the room, which is the FDA. There's a lot of controversy, and rather than me kind of share what I know about it, why don't you share what you can about it?
Sure. So it is the gorilla in the room, or elephant in the room. The problem with the FDA is that they have a very broad mandate. Their mandate is to protect the public health. Now, the problem with that is that that's a really big job. So we assume that these folks are trying to do the best that they can. There are some smart folks over there. The fact that the proposed deeming regulations are taking so long to come out hopefully indicates that they're looking at this thoughtfully. What the problem is that there's all this pressure because of this negative media and this misunderstanding. There's all this pressure being put on FDA to issue deeming regulations. But as you and anybody who vapes know, this is a very complex issue. It's a very complex product. What works for one person may not work for another person.
All right, so since we're talking about the elephant in the room, which of course is the FDA, these are the bad boys that people always wonder, what the hell are they thinking? And they were supposed to come out with some guidelines already last quarter. So share with us, one, what you think is going to happen, and I realize that's only conjecture, but what would we like the FDA to come out with that makes prudent common sense for all of us that are listening?
What we'd really like is for the deeming regs not to come out right now, and for the FDA to actually open up a dialogue with the industry so that we could participate with them and tell them what the industry is really about. I mean, we at SFATA are working on industry standards that we hope to be able to take to the FDA and that they will hopefully accept. Now, we're doing this as a way of including stakeholders in the industry, juice manufacturers, retailers, that kind of thing. Bring it to them and, cover labeling standards and child-proof standards and, production standards, e-liquid, all that good stuff that the FDA is actually grappling with right now. Our concern is that because they don't understand the complexity of the industry, they may not come out with regulations or proposed regulations that actually meet the needs of the consumers in the industry and the business owners.
Wow, so this sounds like a
potentially poor decisions similar to what we see at local city councils, only exponentially greater, because now it's not just involving a small area, it's involving the entire nation. So is it possible that they could come out with what would be considered misguided directions just based on the fact that they either haven't asked the right questions or haven't done their research?
It is entirely possible that could happen. I mean, we hope that won't happen, but it could definitely happen. One of the things that a lot of businesses don't understand, and some of the smaller vape store owners don't understand, is that regulation under the Tobacco Control Act, if it just comes out straight across the board, it would actually cause them to not be able to sell anything until they met certain requirements. They would actually have to shut down their operations until they could meet certain requirements by the FDA.
Wow. So based on what you know or what you think is going to happen, so let's just say that they came out with whatever they come out with immediately, say the 1st of May. Would it probably be grandfathered in? Would there be some type of a hearing process where it would have to go and be discussed before they actually were enacted, or is that difficult to say?
No, it's not difficult to say. There would be a comment period.
A comment period.
After the proposed, and remember, these are proposed regulations, so there would be a comment period, and that would be the time where industry stakeholders, SFATA, anyone who has an interest in this would issue their comments, and that would take, I don't remember exactly, it could be 30 days, it could be 60 days. Then it would go back to FDA for review. Then they would issue their final regulation, and then those would take effect a year, maybe a year and a half later.
So the bottom line is no matter what they do now is not going to impact us at least until 2015.
That's true. However, we have to look at what's happening at the state and local levels, which can impact you immediately.
All right, so let's go there, because obviously the FDA is the biggie, but right now we have how many states that have actually enacted any type of regulations in regard to the e-cig or vaping space?
Well, there are a lot of states that have enacted age restriction bans, which is fine.
We're in agreement with that.
Yeah, and as a matter of fact, what we have been asking for at the federal level, we, SFATA, have been asking for at the federal level, is a national age restriction bill. Let's get it out there. Let's just put it out there, and then all these states don't feel like they have to run around and do it themselves. Additionally, we're rolling out our own version of WeCard, which is funded by Philip Morris. So our members have not wanted to use an age verification system for their physical locations, so we're rolling one out called Age to Vape through SFATA, and it will be the same thing. Responsible business owners taking steps to enforce age verification.
So are you saying that a lot of retailers don't want to be enforcing the age restrictions?
No, I'm saying they don't want to use the WeCard program.
Oh, the WeCard program.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between the WeCard program and what they're doing right now?
The WeCard program is funded by Philip Morris, and we work very hard to stay away from big tobacco. There's a big misconception there that big tobacco somehow built this industry or somehow is pulling the strings on all these businesses that are stakeholders currently in the industry. So what we're trying to do is further separate ourselves by rolling out our own program that doesn't have anything to do with a big tobacco-funded program.
So I think one of the misconceptions that a lot of people have in the vaping industry is they think that big tobacco is their nemesis. And I don't agree with that. I've actually put together some special reports that say that, the whole vaping and e-cig industry has actually been one of the best PR moves for the cigarette big tobacco industry in a long while. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't know what you mean by it's been good for, I know why it's been good for big tobacco. Big tobacco and the open vapor product market are not necessarily going to see eye to eye. It would be in big tobacco's interest in some cases for open vapor products to go away. It would be in their interests for online sales to go away. It would be in their interest for flavors to go away. I'm not saying that they're running around advocating that. However, it's not necessarily in their interests. So we protect the interests of our members. Mm-hmm. And we are fully aware that we may come up against big tobacco, and that's okay.
So you are a nonprofit organization.
We are.
So any and all contributions to your agencies, of course.
Beyond welcome. As is membership. We are membership funded. Donations are appreciated. But really what we need in order to be effective at the federal level is to be able to say we have hundreds of members. We represent hundreds of businesses because that's what they pay attention to.
Okay, so do you have representatives in different states, or do you mostly just kind of spearhead it with your own internal team and go wherever the battle needs to be waged?
I work really long hours.
And there's 50 of you.
Yeah, I wish there were 50 of me. So I spend a lot of time traveling and trying to get to places to deal with things. We have rolled out our first chapter, which is in LA, and we've been approached by other organizations in other states looking to become SFATA chapters. So we're hoping to expand organically that way.
All right, so again, I'm speaking with Cynthia Cabrera, which is the executive director of SFATA, and basically she is running the organization that is a trade organization for our industry, for the vaping industry as well as for the e-cigs. So which states would you say right now, based on the ones that have actually put regulations in place, which states would you say are probably the most restrictive or hostile to our world?
Well, this week, the state of New York, Representative Hannon proposed a bill that would ban the sale of e-liquid in the entire state. So basically he's proposing to ban a product that's actually legal to sell, but he's trying to get prohibition implemented in the state of New York. That's pretty egregious.
Well, prohibition didn't do very well.
You'd think you would know that. I mean, I'm assuming he's read a history book or two.
Well, I had an interesting conversation with some people here yesterday about the fact that the more they try to make something illegal, the more it's going to actually cause increases of illegal activity. As more and more people, it's going to cause a gray market. People bringing stuff in from out of state, people bringing unsafe material in. Because the truth of the matter is that, the conversation I've had with several people is that e-cigarettes are here to stay. The vaping movement is here to stay. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like 12 months, 18 months, 24 months from today. But the truth is that this is what the people need. And my focus has always been on the fact that the turnaround and momentum is going to be generated from the ground up. And that's really where you and I are absolutely in lockstep, because we think and we agree that it has to start with the people getting involved, getting engaged.
Absolutely. And really, there are the consumers, there are the friends and families of the consumers, there are the business owners, and there are the companies that support the business owners. I mean, this is a really big industry when you look at it. A lot of people are affected by it. And, you've got the civil liberties argument, which is that people should be allowed to use this product, consenting adults should be allowed to use this product if they want to. And then we have the other issue, which is that tobacco is a known killer. It's a known public health hazard. We need to address that.
All right, so who should be listening to your message? Obviously, the consumers, the end users that are using vaping or e-cigs, as well as the people in the industry, which would be the vaping people and the people who have websites, and I'm guessing even the people who have friends or relatives that are smokers or have smoked in the past. So really, you're pretty much covering a huge, huge percentage of the population that should absolutely know who you are and what you do.
Absolutely, and we'd also like to engage legislators and health department officials, because they really would benefit from knowing what we do and why we do it.
Excellent. So, again, we're finishing up here with Cynthia Cabrera with SFATA, and how can someone find out more information?
Well, they could go to our website, which is S as in smoke, F as in free, A as in alternatives, T as in trade, A as in association.org.
And when you put them together, you get SFATA.
You get SFATA.
Okay. And is there a phone number or website in addition, or an email address or anything?
Yeah, info@sfata.org. And our phone number is, the easiest one to remember is 218-22-SFATA.
Okay, awesome. So again, we're finishing up here with Cynthia Cabrera with SFATA, and thank you very much for joining us today on Vape News Radio.
Well, it was interesting reviewing that interview, because it had been probably about 5 or 6 weeks since I spoke to Cynthia, and obviously a lot has changed since then. The FDA did not seek out their consultation, nor did they seek out the consultation of anyone that I'm aware of, other than maybe a couple of hearings with Big Tobacco. And the truth is that the FDA decision was not horrible. It could have obviously gone down a lot worse than what it is, and the truth is that we are still in the review period. This is not law, and we are about halfway through the 75-day review process, which I spoke of last time, and the likelihood is very good that they're going to have to push that 75-day review process out, because there's so many people that want to have their voices heard before the FDA finally does move forward with their decision, that you know darn well that they're going to have to allow for more time.
And would you keep the community involved in where they can make their comments? There must be some public hearings or some place to write if you want to get involved in going on the record here.
Absolutely. Go to fda.org and just type in e-cigarettes, and you will find referencing there to it. I'll go ahead and find that link, and I'll put it in our show notes so that everyone can refer to it. And as we wrap up this number 3 section of our Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping, I want to share with you in the next couple of weeks we have some more interesting interviews coming up, including First Union, which is the largest e-cigarette manufacturer in the world, not in the country, but in the world.
Wow.
We have Baker White, which makes an awesome juice, interviewed Dan Baker, and also Lou Ritter and Link Williams from AIMSA, A-I-M-S-A. This is the trade group that kind of monitors the manufacturing of the juicing process. And also I mentioned before we left the last break that we had a contest, and what we did is that we interviewed V2 Cigarettes while we were in Las Vegas, and they have a line of female-centric, female-focused e-cigarette products called Les Essentiels. I'll never make it in France, Paul, because I just cannot get that roll off of my tongue very well.
It doesn't come out well when you say it.
It does not come out sexy whatsoever.
No. The product may be sexy, but your way of describing it isn't.
The product is amazingly sexy. I think it's very cool in the box it comes into, and we actually have a winner, and the winner is here from Los Angeles.
Okay,
you want to give me a drum roll here?
Let's do that here. All right, hang on. Let's get the drum roll ready here. You ready?
There we go.
Okay.
That's it?
That's all
that's the big build-up. Okay. Our winner of the Les Essentiels V2 product is Lisa Tercheria from Los Angeles. So let's give her a round of applause. Yay, Lisa! Yay!
Okay.
All right, so Lisa, I'm going to get a hold of you, and we'll ship this off to you. And you're right here in Los Angeles, so maybe we can even have you come into our studio and you can share your thoughts of
That's
the vaping
it. We should
industry.
get a picture of her accepting her award or something.
You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to invite her down for our next section in 2 weeks.
I think that would be appropriate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure hosting this show for you, and I'm hoping that you get some value out of it. Please share it with all of your friends, those of you in the vaping industry, those of you who are looking to get into the vaping industry. This is Norm Bauer with VapeMentors.com on behalf of Vape News Radio, the voice of vaping. Have yourself an awesome Memorial Day holiday. Talk to you in a few weeks.
You've been listening to Vape News Radio, the official voice of vaping, right here in Orange County's only community radio station, octalkradio.net.